What's up, guys? So today we are back working on the 05, and I'm going to show you how to do the main lower motor mount and the transmission mount. So as with most jobs, the first thing you're going to do is jack up and support the vehicle. Since we're doing both mounts, I'll also be taking off both wheels. While I'm doing that, let me just explain that some of the reasons that you might be replacing this would be either A, excessive engine or transmission movement. Generally, you'll feel this when you shift into drive or into reverse or accelerate hard for the first time, forward or backwards. If the upper mounts are in good shape and you're still feeling the engine move, these are probably a culprit. Another possibility is the mounts can make noise. So that's the reason for my particular case. Now, the next thing that you're gonna do is remove these little quick clips down here so we can pull this splash shield off, because that's gonna need to come off to access the mount, which is right behind it. Then we're gonna go ahead and take the dog bone motor mounts on the top, at least loose, because we're gonna need to jack the engine up, so we're gonna have to have enough room for the engine to move, and these will actually fight that if you don't take them loose first. These are 15mm bolts and 15mm nuts, so you can use the same size for everything. Then you're gonna go down to the bottom and remove the 2 bolts or nuts that hold the mount to the subframe. These are also 15s. Then you're gonna need to put a jack under the oil pan, especially if you have the steel pan, but either way, it's actually better to put a board between the oil pan and the jack. I did not have one that would fit in here, so I had to go this route. Next, you're gonna remove these 3 bolts, which are once again 15mm. I used a wrench for the 2 side bolts, and I just got the front with an impact and an extension. Then just wiggle it out once you've jacked the engine up enough that you've got room. There was no room in the car to get the camera and my hands in here to show you how this comes out, but basically it's gonna sit in here like this. This bolt you can get really easy with an extension from the outside. These 2 I just got with a short wrench from the sides. Once you get this off, you get the bracket out. 2 more bolts right here to take out. Okay, then you take this bracket off. We're gonna move it to the new one, but first, see right here how these go bad. These cracks and stuff that form in there, and then they just compress, and they also get to where they just don't go back to their normal shape anymore. And side by side with the new one, you can tell that it's actually lost some height. It's actually compressed some as well, and no cracks or splits in this one. So all we're gonna do now is move this bracket to the new one and tighten that back down, and we're ready to put it back in the car. And to go back in with this is just basically the opposite of taking it out. Should slide right back in as long as you've got the engine lifted up far enough. Now, lining up all of these bolts will be difficult. I would suggest starting the one facing you that's easy to get to first. Then if you can take one hand on the mount to hold it in place and the other to start the bolts, you should be able to get it fairly easily, except for the back one, which there is no really good way to get to. It's just gonna be tricky. Just make sure that all of the bolts thread in easily before you start to tighten them down. This is a place where you can very easily cross thread this into this aluminum oil pan, and if you do, it will tear the threads up and you will be in a pretty big problem there. So definitely take your time in this part and make sure that that does not happen. Once you've got that in there, you're just gonna lower the mount back into place. You may have to push the mount backwards a little bit as the engine tends to shift forward. Now, moving on to the second side, you can actually get to the lower nuts that hold the transmission mount in without removing anything. So you may as well go ahead and just break those loose and take those off first thing. Those are also 15mm nuts, just like the other side. Fortunately, the majority of this job is 15mm. Once you have both of those lower nuts off, you're going to need to remove this side plastic trim, which is just held on by the same kind of push-in pops that the other side is. A lot of times, like in my case, the screw-in part will get stripped out or broken, and you will have to actually pry it away instead of unscrewing the center. But if you can, certainly try to unscrew the center first so that they're easier to reuse. But on this particular side, if you can get it back enough that you can fold it back out of the way, just as long as you can get to these upper nuts, you really don't have to take it all the way out. Now, on the top, you'll have two of the exact same size 15mm nuts facing upward. The transmission actually sits and sandwiches this mount between itself and the subframe. So you can actually take all 4 nuts off before you jack the transmission up, which is what I'm doing right here just to get it out of the way. Now, the transmission pan is very thin, so you will not be able to jack it up with just a jack by itself. I'm using a rotor, but a block of wood also works. Basically, you just need something to spread out the load. Then once you've got the transmission jacked up to the point that it's completely off the studs, you can just wiggle the old mount right out with no problem. Then you're gonna stick your new mount in the same direction the other one came out, line it up and drop it back on top. Then it's just a matter of replacing the upper dog bone mounts bolts and tightening everything up, and then putting the wheels back on and make sure that the wheels are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. And that's it. Not too bad of a job. It's a little bit of a hassle trying to get the engine sometimes to come back down the right way, so I do recommend having a decent pry bar so that you can reposition as it comes down. Other than that though, it was pretty good. So if you like this video, make sure you like it, comment, let me know what you thought, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.